What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we have got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on ESPN with a 12-team PPR mock where we will be drafting from that 6th overall spot. So it should be pretty interesting. Now, before we get into this draft, a quick reminder for everyone interested, go ahead, get yourself a copy of the 2020 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Everything you could want at a great value. Top 150 overall player rankings in standard and PPR formats, individual player bios, tiers, projections, along with general fantasy advice. And also, check us out online at alldaypigskin.com for some exclusive content. All the details in the description. But with that being said, let's go ahead and turn our attention to this draft because look, there's going to be 5 picks until it's our turn to make a selection. And right now, I'm hoping there's an outside chance that a Dalvin Cook can fall to us at number 6. He's been someone that we've been talking up for a while. And now it seems like from platform to platform, his rankings are slowly getting readjusted. But basically, when this guy is healthy, he's on a run-first system. And he's going to go ahead and get a lot of usage. Think about the fact that Stephon Diggs is no longer there. He'll also increase his volume as a pass catcher. So he should be a tier 1 type of running back. But of course, he goes 4th overall. And then so does Alvin Kamara. And pretty much our kind of worst case scenario takes place here. But that's all right. I was curious what we would do if we were put in this situation. Would we go another running back, maybe like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a Miles Sanders, or go next best available wide receiver? Right now, that would be Michael Thomas, and usually I don't go wide receiver this early, but let's go ahead. Let's try it out. I want to see how this potentially works out. We'll go Michael Thomas here. We'll start the run on potential wide receivers, and I still believe that we'll be able to go ahead and get an RB1 type of player in that second round. It'll be close. It might come down to, 1 or 2 possible selections, but I think we're in good territory. We might get, an Austin Eckler or a Joe Mixon, potentially a Kenyon Drake. Don't forget a Josh Jacobs. All those guys are possibilities. But basically, the fact that you see the first 5 picks all be running back, it again shows you what we pretty much say at the start of every single fantasy football offseason, and that is running back is king. That's the position, as long as you're not reaching like crazy, that is going to go ahead and dictate your roster. That's why, in the first 2 rounds, ideally, you should have at least one RB1 type of guy on your team. Usually, I like to have at least 2, but that's just my preference. We're going ahead and, shaking things up here a little bit for the sake of trying it out. If it's my actual draft and I was in this position, I probably would have gone with a Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Taking him 6th overall might seem early, but I really believe out of all these running backs, first year, second year running backs, he has probably the most upside because consider the offense, the quarterback, and the scoring potential. He's got top 3, top 4 running back upside as far as fantasy is concerned. But let's go ahead and look at some of these selections after our Michael Thomas pick. You have Miles Sanders a little bit early for my liking, Devontae Adams, Derrick Henry, then Clyde Edwards-Helaire at that 10th overall pick, DeAndre Hopkins, Patrick Mahomes with the last pick in the first round. That is way too early, folks. That is an absolute reach. I don't care if whatever the case may be, honestly, you're not taking a quarterback in the first round. This isn't a 2-quarterback league. There's almost zero validity to that. So that should not be the case. Then you see Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler, Kenyon Drake. So a lot of the guys that we were hoping for to potentially fall to us isn't quite the case. But guess what? Joe Mixon, I told you it would come down to 1 or 2 picks here. Joe Mixon falls to us. I still see him as an RB1 type of guy, so I'm going to go ahead and add him. If he can go ahead and excel in that pass catching category, add 15, 20 more pass catches on the season, then we're talking about a 50 catch season for him, which would be tremendous and would put him probably right outside that top 5 running back group, because he definitely has the pure rushing ability upside between 1,200 and 1,300 yards. So I like that there. As far as other positions that we could have gone here, so we had already addressed the wide receiver position. I did think that Tyreek Hill was pretty good value here, but to me, getting a running back was a must. So for that reason, we went Mixon. If we had kicked this off going Clyde Edwards-Helaire or another one of those running backs and then getting Mixon, it would also be a very good start. I'm going to go ahead and hold out judgment on whether the Michael Thomas selection was the right one until we get to that third round and see what is available to us in terms of best player available, in terms of running back, etc. Because right now, I would love a Mike Evans. I would love potentially a George Kittle in the middle of the third round, a Chris Carson. There's some running backs there, definitely. To finish out the second round, you see Chris Godwin go, you see Travis Kelce go, Todd Gurley. I'm surprised to see him go at that point in time, but hey, I like the upside for Gurley. I know some people are a little bit worried, but on a 1-year prove-it type of deal on what should be an extremely high-scoring offense, I myself really like Gurley. And honestly, I think him leaving the Rams was probably the best thing that could happen for him and for his fantasy value. So I like that. Then you see Amari Cooper. A little bit surprised to see him go, considering Mike Evans, Kenny Golladay is still there. This is a full point PPR format, so keep that in mind. And Adam Thielen, also a good option. Then Lamar Jackson with the first pick in the third round. So look, at the end for Patrick Mahomes, getting Lamar Jackson pretty much an entire round later is much better value, even though we still wouldn't go ahead and really endorse that, because you can get some really great quarterbacks in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th round, so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, how much will the separation between Lamar and Patrick Mahomes be to really warrant an entire first round gap between them? That's the question that you need to answer. So in my mind, it won't be all that much. So getting Patrick Mahomes that much earlier, value-wise, it did not make sense. And when you think about some of the other quarterbacks with the upside that they have later on, Kyler Murray, Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, you can get those guys 4 or 5 rounds later. So I'd much rather do that. At this point in time, Kenny Golladay just went off the board. Let's read off this third round: Lamar Jackson, Leonard Fournette, DJ Moore, Chris Carson, Kenny Golladay. And I'm in a really tough situation right now because there's a player that I absolutely love and I think is an absolute steal of a value pick in Mike Evans. Running back wise, we would be taking a big risk here to potentially pass on a running back, but I just think the value is so good with Mike Evans that's going to probably be my pick here. I have him ranked above an Adam Thielen, so let's go ahead and just go with Mike Evans there. George Kittle may be slightly tempting, but I wanted to go ahead and get my next wide receiver. Michael Thomas and Mike Evans, that's a stellar wide receiver combination. Then consider the fact that you still have Joe Mixon. That's not too shabby, folks. So I'm actually all right with how this thing is playing out. Now, maybe you could make the case, well, in retrospect, if Mike Evans still falls to you in the third round and you had started RB, you might be in a better position. And to some extent, that's true, because in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, you'll see that there's some really great value wide receivers, and you do expect a fall off in Michael Thomas. But let's go ahead and see how this plays out. David Johnson goes off the board a little bit after our Mike Evans selection. So just to read off those picks after Evans, you see Robinson, Thielen, Kittle, good value for Kittle, David Johnson, A.J. Brown, and then Juju Smith. So right now, what I'm hoping happens is that one of those running backs, let's read them off, in a James Conner, in a David Montgomery, fall to us. So this is what I mean here. We've gotten to the point where there's some really good mid-level wide receivers in a Calvin Ridley, in a Juju Smith, in a Robert Woods that just went. But let's go ahead quickly see where overall, James Conner is ranked. So he's ranked 52nd overall. Right now, that's a really pressing position for me. I would love to go Robert Woods or Cooper Kupp here. I really would. But I just think that James Conner probably makes more sense. We need to address that running back spot. So I'm going to go ahead and add him there. And who knows? We'll see if there's a run on running backs here. But I think getting Conner at this point in the draft in the 4th round is pretty good value. So I'll go ahead and take it behind that offensive line. That's not bad. So with a Big Ben healthy now, I see a high workhorse volume type of year for James Conner. I'm excited to get him as my RB2. We're going to go ahead and add a 3rd running back potentially here, depending on the value. I mentioned a David Montgomery if he falls to us in that 5th round. And you see Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods go. So again, that's another example of seeing these 4th, 5th round type of wide receivers with tremendous value. Wide receiver 1 type of upside go here. You see DeAndre Swift go ahead of a David Montgomery, and I think that's absolutely ludicrous, to be honest with you guys. Let's see what other possibilities other than a David Montgomery we have here. You see Jonathan Taylor, you see Kareem Hunt, Ronald Jones, and of course, David Montgomery goes right there. That is tough. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But let's go ahead. We can go ahead and pivot a little bit. We can still go ahead and get a good value in terms of next best available player here in this 5th round. Right now, guys that I would be considering, let's see what we've got in the quarterback situation. 77th, 78th overall, Watson, Kyler Murray. I'm not going to be reaching on a quarterback. Tight end, I think we can still go ahead and wait on that. I like a Devontae Parker. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I also like a Darren Waller. I think he can go ahead and potentially fall to us. So I'll take my chances with Parker at this point in time. So let's go ahead and add him to the squad. We've got one of our flexes taken care of. And right now, I'll go ahead and plan on adding a 3rd running back because we need the depth most definitely. I'm going to be looking probably at a Kareem Hunt or a Raheem Mostert if they fall to us. At this point, it's anybody's guess, but I think both those guys at that point in time would be good value. Our wide receivers right now are, I think, very good and with big upside type of talent. Our running backs, not bad, but, Mixon isn't that prototypical PPR type of running back. James Conner has some health concerns, so definitely risk associated with that pick. So we need to go ahead and add some more depth here. Let's see how we're going to go ahead and accomplish that. I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, target a Raheem Mostert, target a Kareem Hunt, maybe a Mark Ingram if the value is there. And some of the picks after a Devontae Parker selection, you see Zach Ertz, Jonathan Taylor, DK Metcalf, Jarvis Landry, DJ Shark, Stephon Diggs. So Jonathan Taylor again here. In my eyes, he should be going hand in hand with Marlon Mack. The difference in ADPs between those two guys, when you consider that there's no preseason, when there's no, real advantage for the rookies this year, or for a chance to them for them to prove themselves, to get a leg up on the competition, I think that puts a guy like Jonathan Taylor at a disadvantage. So for that reason, I'm going to be staying away from those guys. So now to recap, you see someone like a DK Metcalf afterwards, Jarvis Landry, Shark, Stephon Diggs to finish off the 5th round. Then Evan Ingram, Raheem Mostert goes, unfortunately. So does Darren Waller. We took a gamble to see if he'd fall to us. He does not. Then AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, Deebo Samuel. I would not be taking Deebo Samuel this high, considering he's expected to miss several weeks in the season. So here, we need running back depth. We get a little bit lucky that Kareem Hunt falls to us. This is a full point PPR format. So Kareem Hunt could be a valid flex play on a week-to-week basis. So I'm happy with us getting value on Kareem Hunt. We've got, I think, 3 capable running backs. And at this point in time, in the next couple of rounds, when we wrap this thing up, we can go ahead and get back to getting value picks. And you see that at this point in time, you're going to have some high boomer bust players, guys like a Marquise Brown, and you're going to start getting in the quarterback range as well. I would have loved to have Evan Ingram fall to us later on. He's a tight end that I personally believe in, but it's all right. We'll go ahead and get some more value afterwards at one of those other tight ends. And here, just to go ahead and scroll down, the fact that Julian Edelman is ranked 86th overall, and then he's still available in the 7th, heading into the 7th round of full point PPR format, where he's a clear wide receiver number 1 for an established Cam Newton. That's absolutely ridiculous. Julian Edelman should be going, in the 5th, 6th round of a full point PPR format. He is a solid wide receiver 2 this year that right now is undervalued on ESPN, for example. And we'll see here if we get a little bit of a run on quarterbacks. You see Dak Prescott go here with that second to last pick in the 6th round. And again, we've said it before with the quarterbacks on ESPN, but their value is a little bit lower than it should be. So Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, Josh Allen, Drew Brees, all those guys in the hundreds in terms of best player overall ranking wise. So we can potentially get some very good value on all those guys. So I'm not worried about that position. And it's going to be our chance to pick here in a little bit. And let's see what we can go ahead and do. And honestly, if Julian Edelman falls to us, I'm going to go ahead and scoop him up. I think that's a great value pick at that point in time. And looking at our wide receivers, Michael Thomas, Mike Evans, Devontae Parker, and if we get Julian Edelman, I feel pretty confident in saying that we have one of the upper echelon teams as far as pass catchers are concerned. So we're set at that position. Running back, I think we got a little bit lucky landing Kareem Hunt. If Mixon and Connor, like I said before, can stay healthy, then we're not too bad in the running back department. Obviously, it would have been nicer to go ahead and get another solid stud at that position, but I'll go ahead and take it for the trade-off of getting, the presumed number 1 wide receiver in Michael Thomas. So let's go ahead and add Julian Edelman here to the bench, and then we've got a couple more selections to make, and that's probably going to wrap this thing up. So tight end, quarterback, let's go ahead and potentially queue up some players at some other positions as well for the sake of depth. And with Mixon, you could potentially be thinking about a Giovanni Bernard as a handcuff. If anything happens to Mixon, we've seen it before. Giovanni Bernard steps in, and he is a legit RB1, huge upside. So right now, that run on quarterback begins 4 straight, quarterbacks, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Josh Allen, Matt Ryan. I'm not sure how many of those selections were auto picks, but now that's what the draft is kind of slowly turning into. So no need to go ahead and make this that much longer. We'll go ahead and make 2 more selections and then wrap this thing up. At the quarterback position, I highlighted the fact that we have still got guys like a Tom Brady, Carson Wentz, and Drew Brees. If either one of those guys fall to us at the 91st overall pick, then I'm going to go ahead and draft them, no problem. We've got 7 picks until we're on the clock. I think we can go ahead and land one of those guys. So for that reason, I'm pretty confident in getting one of those targets and rounding out this roster. Let's see what happens. And if we are successful in doing so, kind of starting to grade out this team. So wide receiver wise, I would say we've got an A there, no problem. Running back wise, probably a B minus. You could probably say maybe even C plus. Again, I would have loved to have had another high-end running back. I don't think Kareem Hunt quite falls into that category. So for that reason, I'm a little bit more harsh in that grade. So let's go ahead, add Tom Brady here, and then add a Q speculative ad at the tight end position. I'll go ahead and queue up a Mike Gesicki. I'm happy with Tom Brady, getting him at this point in time. I think that's, again, a good value pick. To me, he has top 10 upside, getting that stack between him and Mike Evans. So all in all, if I had to give this entire team an overall grade, I'd probably go ahead and go with a B. And honestly, The fact that we started out with Michael Thomas, I think this roster turned out a little bit better than I was expecting. So from that perspective, I'm happy with how this turned out. Let me hear it in the comment section. Did you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have, and I'll do my best to answer them. And again, another quick reminder for everyone interested, go ahead and get yourself a copy of the 2020 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Everything you possibly want at a great value, and check us out online at alldaypigskin.com. All the details in the description. If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, and in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos. And let's go ahead and wrap this thing up by making our selection at tight end with Mike Gesicki so that you guys can get that full view of the roster. And again, let us know what you think, and we'll see you guys in future videos.